Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Pesachim Mem Daled. We have 4 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rav Dimi v'k'amar lo hashmata. Rav Dimi was sitting and saying over this statement in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, that we never find that heter can be combined with iser. If one has only a half a zayis, half an olive's volume of chalev, and puts together with it some basar, which is mutter, to be mashlim the shir. So even though in total we have a kazayis here, but since the iser element is only half a kazayis, you don't say heter is mitzaref iser. It combines the iser with iser to complete the shir. There's only one exception, which is the isurim of nazir. As we learn from a pasuk, it says mishras. Torah says if one soaks his bread in wine, then he's chayiv. The Gemara learns that apparently we're speaking that he's using the bread to be mashlim to complete the shir of the wine. Otherwise, what's the chiddush? So that's one exception. Heter is never mitzdaref to Isra except by Yisuri Nazir. Yosef Rav Dimi, Amar la Shmata. So Rav Dimi was sitting and saying over this halacha. Amar le Abaye le Rav Dimi. So Abaye challenged him. Is that so? Elsewhere, other Yisurim don't have this concept. In Heter mitzdaref le Isra. Vatnan, we have a Mishnah which seems to apply this concept by Truma. Ha mikpah. Mikpah is a porridge, some sort of cooked food, a thick cooked food. Shal truma. So the primary ingredient is truma, but there's some seasoning in there. Vashum, vashemen, the garlic and the oil is shalchun, ordinary, non-truma material. So the primary element is truma, but the secondary is chulin. We know that a Tue Jun, a person who was toivel and hadn't yet had the hair of shemesh, so before nightfall he's considered a sheni l'tum, and he can be paisel truma, but only truma. If he touches chulin, nothing happens. So what's the status of this mixture here, this mikpah? The main portion is truma, but the seasoning is chulin. And Tue Jun came along and touched anywhere, even the seasoning. He touched a little seasoning. Pasal is kula, and the entire dish becomes pasal because it's all one entity, one glob. And since it's mostly truma, the primary element is truma, it has a din of truma, and regardless of what he touched, the truma material or the chul material in that mixture, it's all considered one and the same, and everything becomes pasal. What about ha-mikpah shel chulin? If the primary ingredient of this mikpah is chulin, ordinary material, v'ashum, and the garlic, v'ashemen, and the oil is shel truma. So they're merely secondary to the primary, which is chulin. Now, v'noga Tue Jun went and touched some of the garlic. Lo pasal ala makam agoy bavad. Only thing that makes pasal is what he actually touched. So, although the entire dish is not considered truma, it's chulin, only the seasoning is. We don't say that the seasoning is not reckoned with, non-existent. It's there. It's there to a certain extent. If you touched the seasoning, then that becomes pasal. But it doesn't spread the tumah to the rest of the dish, which is chulin. We asked the kasha, what is the pshat in the Mishnah? Why do we say that the spot where he touched becomes pasal? Ha-batli luhutavim b'roiv. Why isn't the seasoning batal b'roiv? Rashi explains that at this point the Gemara figures the concept of miduma is only midrabanan. The fact that we say that when we have a bit of truma mixed into a lot of chulin, it becomes aser, even though there's roiv chulin to the truma. We say it's meduma until there's 100 times as much. That concept is only midrabanan. But minat Torah, it's batal. So how can we consider this truma to be pasal, to be tamid? V'amar Rabba Barachan. I'll tell you the reason. Matam hoil v'zar loikalein b'kazayis. He says, no, you're mistaken. Dimua, meduma is minat Torah. So if a person, a zar, non-kohen, go ahead and eat this mixture, even just a kazayis worth, and there's a little bit of truma embedded within, he gets malchus. There's a lav. So to a certain extent, we consider it to still be truma. So Rashi explains, up to a point. We say the seasoning is not batal, it's still considered intact. It has its din of truma. So that's why Mokei Magoy, the actual place where this Tue Jun touch becomes possible. Because it's not bottle, it's still considered be'en, it's there, it's intact. In fact, if a person would eat a kazayis of this material, this mixture, it would be chayiv. So the truma material is still intact. However, says Rashi, we don't say it's that meduma is just like regular truma and the whole entire mikvah has a din of truma. No, to that extent we don't say. It's not so chamer, and therefore, other than the mokim ma'goy, the actual place of contact, everything else remains tar. So that was the Mishnah with Rabba bar Bachana's pshat. Why, in the case where the seasoning is truma, do we say it becomes pasul? Because should a person eat this mixture, a kazayis of this mikvah, with a seasoning, even a small portion of seasoning in that, he gets malchus. Says the Mehechidami. What's going on here? Lav mishum, the heter mitzaref l'isser. Apparently, it's based on the concept of heter mitzaref l'isser. Even though, in the end of the day, you only had a small, minute amount of truma. You had a little garlic, a little oil. You know, like a zayis of truma. So why is it zorga malchus? Because you're joining and combining the heter to the isser, and allowing the permissible portion to complete the shear of the isser. So this fellow ate a kazayis of whatever it was, isser and heter together. We consider it as though he ate isser. And this is Abaye challenging Rav Dimi. It only applies to nazir, applies to truma as well. It says more lie. So Rav Dimi responded, no, it's unrelated to heter mitzaref le'isser. My kazayis. What did Rabba bar Bachana mean when he said that a zor gets malchus upon eating kazayis? He meant the kazayis of the truma. Only if he actually ate a kazayis of truma does he get malchus. The ika kazayis b'chtei achilas pras. He meant to say like this: if a person sits down and has this meal, has this mikvah dish, and he actually consumed, he ate a kazayis within the time frame of a meal, in one sitting. It's called achilas pras. Rashi explains that pras is half of what? That loaf. Which loaf? The one mentioned in the Gemara Erevin. The 2 meals worth loaf used for the Erev. Half of that is 1 meal's worth. Pras means a half of that loaf. 1 meal's worth. Rashi says it's 4 kibetzim. As long as it takes to have an average meal of 4 kibetzim. Some places can say it's 3 minutes, some say it's 9 minutes. Whatever it is, it's considered one experience, one meal experience, one sitting. So a person should eat this amount, let's say a meal's worth of the mikvah, and embedded in that, included in the 4 kibetzim worth, this meal's worth, is actually a sheer kazayis of truma. Since he had that kazayis within this time span, this 1 meal time span, one sitting, it's considered as though he ate that kazayis b'vasachas at once. It's mitzdaref, even if it's just a little garlic, a little oil, a little garlic. But at the end of the day, if it was all within the 3 or 9 minutes, in 1 meal, that is considered an achila of Isser. That explains the Mishnah. The reason why we say the seasoning is not, but the truma is still intact, because should a person sit down and have this mikvah, there was enough seasoning there that if he would eat a shir of a suda, achilas pras, he would end up having eaten a kazayis of that truma, and that makes him chayiv. So as a result of that concept, the truma is still considered be'en. It's here. It can generate chayiv. It's not bottled, it's not non-existent. It's here in a very significant amount. A person has a meal of this, he's chayiv. So it's not related to heter mitzaref le'isser, which is referring to not having enough isser, and the heter is coming to complete the shear. No, that's not the case here. He has enough isser dispersed throughout this mikvah. He has a kazayis which is going to consume b'chtei achilas pras. This was Rav Dimi's response. Let's take a look at Rashi. So right off to the right, drop down just about 2 lines. So you'll notice the 2 dots in the middle of Rashi. So Rashi begins there, umeshani. The Gemara responds, my loike b'kazayis tekamar. What did Rabbi Bachana mean that a zor gets malchus when he eats a kazayis? He didn't mean a kazayis which is partially heter and partially iser. No, that's not the case here. He meant to say b'chtei achilas pras. He had a full kazayis of iser, but it was dispersed. It was within the shear of a meal. Shemachal pras mimenu. If he ate a sheer pras of this dish, sheer arba beitzim, Yesh kazayis truma. Within 4 egg volumes, you have a kazayis of truma. So how does that help us? He didn't eat in one shot. So how does it work? It says Rashi v'kaimulam, and we know this as a halacha. The kol shiurei achilas isur. All types of shiurim of achilas isur, ben kazayis, ben shel chelev, shel dam, ben kazev, ben kippurim. All these shiurim mitzdarfen achilas asher b'chtei shiyazu. It's mitzdarf. If you eat a little bit now, a little bit later, if it's within this shear of a suda, achilas pras, it's in one sitting, it's all considered like one masa achila. It says, oh, he swallowed kazayis at once. Shebachal kechardel chelev. Let's say he takes a piece of chelev. It's just a mustard seed size, just a crumb of chelev now. And another crumb. Until he completes the kazayis. So then we take a look at the clock. If the time elapsed from the beginning to the end of this process was not more than the time that it takes to have the achilas pras, average meal, mitzdarif, it's considered to be one entity, one achila. So he ate it all once. Here as well, by the truma. Yesh kan truma k'dei l'starif, k'dayis, achilas pras mimenu. There's enough truma there. If he should eat a shir suda of this mikpah, he's going to have eaten within it enough truma, a kazayis of truma. So that's why it's still considered here. It's very much here. It can be eaten and generate a chiv. So that's why if he touched the truma, it becomes puzzle. It's not bottle to the chulin material. Says the Gemara. Ukazayis b'chei achilas pras de'raisai. This was Abaye responding. Is that so that this concept of eating kazayis within this framework, this time frame of the Suda Achilas Pras, that's a Din Da'iraisa, that Halacha Moshe Sinai, and it can get malchus on account of that? Amalein? Rav Dira responds, yes, certainly. This is one of the Halacha Moshe Sinai. Ihachi, says Abaye, if that's the case. Amay pligi Rabbana later Rav Lezer, B'Kudach HaBavli. Well, when it comes to the Kudach HaBavli dip, it has some breadcrumbs in it. Rav Lezer says it's malchus, Katarev is chametz. Chacham disagree. They say there's no lam, there's no einish on it. Why? Fine, they don't have the drasha we had yesterday. Kol, the word kol is coming to mimarva, even tarev is chametz. Fine, but what about the basic halacha? If a person eats a kazayis of issa b'chtechilas pras, he's chayiv. I'm assuming that within this kutach there's enough bread there that he'll end up eating a kazayis of bread within this time frame. So Abaye was proving this point that apparently this is not something to base the halacha on. This concept of kazayis, it's not something to reckon with. And when Rabbi Chana told us that the seasoning within that dish generates malchus, it's not an account of the kazayis, etc. It's an account of the fact that it had to be tzaf. So he's proving his point. Because otherwise, why would the Rabbanan not hold him liable for eating the kudich habavli? Elamai. So Rav Dira responds, okay, so what are you going to say? Mishum dehetem tzaf iser. That the reason why, according to Rabbi Rachana, with the seasoning gets malchus is because you're saying because heter tzaf iser. He didn't eat a kazayis of the iser, but the heter joins the iser, and together you have a kazayis. Is that the case? So the same kasha can be applied to you. Soif. At the end of the day, ultimately, amai pligi Rabbana later Rav Lezer kudich habavli. The same kasha applies to you. What are you asking me? If there's an isser of kadayis lechilas pras, so why the chacham exempt a person from kudich habavli? What about the kazayis that he's eating? Lechilas pras, according to you. So you're saying heter is mitzaref le'isser. There again, when you have kudich habavli, you have some other ingredients, but you have together the isser and the heter will create a shir kazayis. So amai pligi Rabbana lei Rav Lezer kudich habavli. According to you, why the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Lezer? Why don't they say that the heter ingredients join together with the isser ingredients, with the crumbs, and let it be chayiv? Ella, so Rav Dira responded, apparently, let's just leave kudich habavli alone. Hanach lekudich habavli. Let's leave kudich habavli alone. Because, even according to me, that there is a chiyuv for eating a kazayis within this mealtime time frame, within the achilas pras. This won't apply to kudich habavli. which has just some breadcrumbs. The less bekazayis b'chtei achilas pras. It will never amount to eating a kazayis worth within achilas pras. Why? If he's eating it intact, the kasar of achle, he just swallows the dip intact, and he'll end up eating a kazayis of breadcrumbs within the shear of a mealtime. Well, that's not called an achila. He's pater on that. Nobody swallows this sour dip. Batal diet takes a koladim. His das is batal to everybody. That's not called derech achila, and he has an achiv on it. So in that case, he won't be chayiv. He mishta kashater v'achil. So what then could he do? He can use it like everybody else. Mishta kashater. He dips his bread into it, v'achil, and he eats. So he's going to have his bread with a dip. Less beikazayis dechilas pras. In that case, the amount of dip is so minute and so insignificant that when he's done his meal, his achilas pras, the amount of chametz that he ate, the amount of crumbs coming out of this dip is so insignificant. It will not amount to a kedayis in total. So true, generally speaking, a person eats a kedayis within this achilas pras is chayv, but in kudach habavli, it's not practical. That explains why the chachamim are not mechayiv a person by kudach habavli. Eisvei, Sabai responded. It's another kasha. So you're telling me that this concept of kazayis and achilas pras is a halacha meshmei Sinai. We have a brayso, shtei kderis, you have two pots, acha shel chulin v'acha shel truma, one filled with chulin material, one with truma, and before them we have shtei meduches, two mortars, acha shel chulin, one containing chulin, v'acha shel truma, one containing truma, v'naflu elu techelu. And the content of the meduches were spilled into the pots. We don't know if it was the chulin to the chulin and the truma to the truma, or perhaps the reverse. The truma entered the pot with the chulin. Now we have a mixture which is asa. So which way do we go? Mutarin, says the brayso. Everything is mutar. We hope for the best. Shani omer truma l'secha truma nafla. Truma fell into the truma. The chulin l'secha chulin nafla, and the chulin fell into the chulin. Now, as Abai is speaking, vi amris kazayis b'chtei achilas pras de'raisa. You can only say this if it's something to Rabbanan. But if you maintain that whenever you have a mixture of Isser v'heter, and if there's enough Isser in there, that if a person would eat a achilas pras of that mixture, he would have eaten a kazayis of the Isser, you maintain it's a deraisa concept, and a person's chayiv. So how can we assume that truma fell into truma? How can we go to kula? If it's a savik d'rabbanan, fine, but if it involves the raisa, savik d'raisa, maybe the truma actually fell into the chulin. They have a mixture, and it's aser b'achila. Amar leis, or Avdi responded, Hanach let truma tavlan d'rabbanan. Let's leave truma of tavlan. Raisa described the truma in a mortar, speaking about some type of spice, which is only chayiv in truma midrabanan. Rashi brings that in the Torah, truma only applies to grain, grapes, olives, but not to just seasoning. It's only midrabanan. So the entire truma here is only midrabanan. We have a safek midrabanan, we go l'kula. Eisvei, Sabai asked him another kash. Shtei kubas, two boxes, two containers. Who's speaking that it has anything, even grain? Acha shel chulin, acha shel truma, one containing chulin, one truma. V'lefneihem, and before them we have beis sin, two saw containers. Acha shel chulin, acha shel truma, one containing chulin, the other truma. V'naflu elu techelu, and the containers of the saw fell into the kupa. So the sein fell into the kupas. We don't know which way it went. Was it the truma to the truma, or perhaps the truma to the chulin? Mutar, everything's mutar. Shani omer, because once again, we hope for the best, and we say, chulin to chulin naflu, the chulin fell to the chulin, but truma to the truma naflu, and the truma to the truma. Once again, if it's suffix deraisa, because any mixture which has a significant amount of isser in it is considered aser, so how can you go ahead and say l'kula? The amris kazayis b'chtei achilas pras deraisa. How can you just presume, say Shani Yomer, everything worked out for the best? if it involves the Issa Deraisa according to you. Amar lei. So once again, Rav Dimi responds, Hanach l'truma b'zman hazeh d'Rabbanan. Let's leave truma nowadays alone because it's only d'Rabbanan. During the time of Gullus, the entire concept of truma is only d'Rabbanan. So this whole concern here is only within the context of it. It's d'Rabbanan. And that's why we hope for the best. We say the truma fell into the truma, chulin into the chulin, safek d'Rabbanan l'kul. So at this point in the Gemara, we had Rav Dimi, who quoted Rabbi Yehuda, that generally speaking, we don't say heter is mitzaref le'isr. We have one exception, which is the surei nazar, due to the fact that the Torah says v'chol mishras hanavim. The nazar should refrain from eating even something which was soaked in a wine product. So this bread, which has some wine absorbed in it, that bread itself joins and is combined and is mashlim, completes the share of the wine. So we have the concept of heter mitzaref le'isr by nazar, strictly by nazar, due to the pasuk, the word mishras. Says the Gemara, v'hai mishras l'achid asa? Is that so that mishras is coming to teach us this halacha? We need it for another halacha, and it's unavailable for this. Mishras, what does that teach us? Litain tam ki'ikar. The Torah here is mechadash to us that even flavor is equal to substance. What's an example? Shimshara anavim b'mayim. If you soaked anavim b'mayim, you have grapes soaked in water, and then you pulled out the grapes, and the water has taken on the flavor. It's now grape, wine flavored water. V'yesh b'en tam yain, and in the water there's some wine flavor. Chayev. Why? Because the tam of an isser is equated with the substance of the isser itself. Flavor is like substance. Tastes like wine, has a din like wine. Mikan atadan l'chalater kula. And from here, the fact that the Torah teaches us by nazar, by mishras is by nazar, telling you that even bread which absorbed the tam of yain is considered like wine itself. The tam is ki'ikar. We learn from here to all other Yisrael Shabbat Torah, if there's a tam, it has a din like the ikar isser. Let's take a look at Rashi up on top. Litain tam ki'ikar. La says tam ishal isser ki'ikar imamoshe. Torah considers the tam like the very essence of the isser. What's the example? You soak grapes in water. V'yesh behen b'mayim tam yain chayiv. B'kazayis man. Even that's just the kazayis of water is chayiv. Even though it's not wine, but it's wine flavored water. Tam ki'ikar. Now Rashi points out something. This is very different than heter mitzaref le'isr. It's an entirely different configuration. V'hol lav mishum heter mitzaref le'isr. Ela mishum dis avad le'kule isr. Heter mitzaref le'isr means you have a little bit of isr next to a little bit of heter, but didn't receive any tam. The isr didn't give over flavor into the heter. Two separate pieces. One's chametz, one is matzah. One's wine, one's bread, which would not absorb the taste of wine. You have to be eating it together, so heter mitzaref le'isr. Here we're speaking about tam ki'ikar, where the heter actually received the tam of the isr that was absorbed into the heter. And that's a tremendous chiddush, that this is considered like the isr itself. And that's agreed upon by all. There's no machlokes, as we're going to see in the upcoming Gemara. So here Rashi says, this avale kule isr. The entire heter has now been transformed into isr. So you have this wine, grape-flavored water. So the actual wine substance is so minute, but since there's a flavor throughout that water, if he drinks a kazayis of that water, this nazar is chayiv. Says Rashi, but since we need it for this, to tell you tam ki'ikar, you no longer have a pasuk available to teach us that greater chiddush, that even heter is mitzaref l'isr. That's even a greater chiddush. That's a stretch to say that the heter, which had not yet absorbed any tam of isr, can complete the share of the isr just by mere virtue of the fact that he ate them together. So that's tam ki'ikar. Continues Rashi, that we apply this to l'chol ha'Torah kula. She'ei tam shel isur k'ma moshe. Elsewhere, when it comes to a tray, chayil of tam, a tam is like the ikar. So the kash is going to be that you can no longer use the mishras to tell you heter mitzaref le'isr, because we need it for tam ki'ikar. Let's proceed, says the Brisa. Uman Nazir. She'eni Suri Israel. How am I going to derive elsewhere? How am I going to apply this concept that we find by Nazir, Tam Ke'ikar, to all the Yisurim? Using a Kavachim. Uman Nazir. She'eni Suri Israel. Since Nazir, despite the fact that it has three chesroinus, three deficiencies. Number one, it's not a permanent Isser. It lasts for 30 days, 40 days. Number two, Ve'eni Suri Isra No. It's not Isra No. You can have enough from wine. Ve'eshet Suri. And in fact, even as we speak, currently, the Zirus has potential heta. You can run to the Rav and undo the nether. So, notwithstanding the fact that it has three kulais, we still say Asabek Tam Ke'ikar. The Torah considers any flavor of Isser as though it is the Ikar itself, pertaining to Nazir. So certainly Kalayim, Sheisuri Israel, Kalayim where we find that it's a permanent Isser. Visuri Isar no, Ve'in Atali Isuri. No way to remove the Isser. Ein Adin Sheyas Tam Ke'ikar. Certainly over there, the Tam of the Isser would be considered and treated like the Ikar itself. V'adin Arla B'shtayim. And likewise we can include Arla in this configuration on account of two elements that are found by Arla. Two chumres, two of these three. Rashi explains, it's Isser Hana. That's number one. Number two, there's no heta to the Isser Arla. Once it's Arla, it's Arla. But Rashi says a third item actually doesn't apply. It's not a forever Isser because it's only limited to the first 3 years. But the fact that it has two chumres, two elements, that should be enough to apply the chumrah to Arla as well, based on this Kavachimer from Nazir. So this is the end of the Brisa. Again, the Brisa applies the word mishras, found by Nazir, to teach us that tam, flavor, is tantamount to source, to ikar. Flavor is like substance. So how can we use the same pasuk to teach us hetzem mitzarf le'isr? Hamani rabbanon. This Brisa reflects Shitas Rabbanon, who really don't hold of the concept that heter is mitzarf le'isr by Nazir, as we're going to see in the upcoming Gemara. So you're right, according to them, the pasuk is fully available to teach us Tam Ke'ikar. Rabbi Yehuda, who spoke about Hetem Mitzaref L'Isser by Nazir because of Mishras, he's following Rabbi Akiva, who applies the pasuk of Mishras to teach you this halach. What is Rabbi Akiva going to know? Tam Ke'ikar? That the Gemara is going to discuss. First, we want to find this Rabbi Akiva. Hi, Rabbi Akiva. Where did you find Rabbi Akiva to hold that Heter is a Mitzaref L'Isser by Nazir? Ilim Rabbi Akiva de Masnisen. Is it Rabbi Akiva found in the Mishnah? It's not. Rabbi Akiva Ayman. Nazir sheshara pita b'yayin. A Nazir who soaked his bread in wine. And he has a tziruf of kazayis. Chayiv. So we're assuming that he is calculating in that kazayis both elements, bread and wine. So we see that heter mitzaref l'isr according to Rabbi Akiva. How would you know that Rabbi Akiva is referring to a joint shir kazayis of bread and wine? Perhaps Rabbi Akiva is referring to having kazayis of wine. Well, if that's the case, they'll say wine has a kazayis, then what's the chiddush? He dipped his bread in wine, and there's enough wine in there, a shir kazayis. Of course he's chayiv. How come mashmon? The chiddush here is the afagav the tarovis, even though it's not wine in its pure form, it's been embedded in bread. It's a blend. It's a mixture. Still, all is chayiv. But certainly, you need to have a kazayas of wine. You don't say the bread has been starved to the wine. So you have no raya. The Rabbi Akiva holds heter mitzaref l'isur from that mission. Elo says the one Rabbi Akiva the Brisa. We found another Rabbi Akiva the Brisa who clearly says that heter is mitzaref l'isur by Nazir. L'sanya Rabbi Akiva Ayman. Nazir sheshara pita b'yayin. The Nazir who dipped his soaked. Shara means he soaked his bread in wine. V'achal kazayas mipasam yayin chayiv. And he ate a kazayas containing bread and wine. So the bread and wine elements both came up to the shir kazayas. Chayiv. So you see clearly that, according to Akiva, by Nazir, due to the pasuk of Mishras, we learn that even the bread, can complete the shir of the wine, and he has eaten the kazayas of Isra. Considered the one experience, one ma'aseh achila, and his chayiv. So once again, Rabbi Yehuda was referring to Rabbi Akiva Shita, who applies Mishras V'heter mitzaref l'isser by nazir. Whereas according to Rabbanon, they don't hold it that chiddush. Rather, they apply mishras for the of tam ki'ikr. Says the Rabbi Akiva, who already used mishras for this halacha, tam ki'ikr minole. How would he know that a flavor is considered like substance, tam ki'ikr? He no longer has a pasuk available for that, because mishras is coming to teach the other halacha. So he has another makar. Yolif and basa b'chalav. Lav tama ba'amu v'asr. Your standard basa b'chalav. What is the essence of the isser? Basar on its own is mutter. Chalav independently is mutter. What generates the isser? The tam, the mixture. The fact that there's some milk flavor sitting in the meat. That is the essence of the isser. Lav tama ba'amu v'asr. Isn't it merely just a flavor, a taste? And it's asr. Hachanami, here as well. Leishna is no different, meaning any other isser will have the same concept. Tam is like isser. Tam ki'ikr. Says the Gemara, Rabbanon who apparently did not hold you can learn from Basa B'chalav. They need Mishras to tell you Tam Ki'ikr. Why not? Basa B'chalav Le'yavina. They hold you cannot learn from there. Basa B'chalav Le'yavina. You can't learn Tam Ki'ikr. They're Chidushu. Because it's unique, it's a novelty. There's something unique about Basa B'chalav that we don't find anywhere else, another Yisur. As the Gemara will explain. And perhaps it follows its own guidelines. So just because you find tam ki'ikr or basa b'chalav doesn't necessarily mean this concept can be applied elsewhere. Umay chiddush. So what's this chiddush by basa b'chalav? What's unique? Ilema dahai l'chudei v'hai l'chudei shar. Is it because each ingredient, each element on its own is mutter? The basar independently is mutter, and the chalav independently is mutter. Ubahadi adadi asar. But only when you join them together it becomes asar. That's something truly unique. You have two things which are technically mutter, but suddenly when you join them together, it becomes asr. That's a chiddush, and perhaps that indicates that basa b'chalav runs by its own rules, at its own track, its own guidelines. You can't learn any halachas from there. Says the Rabbi, that's not so unique. That's not something which is only found by basa b'chalav. Kalayim nami. There as well you find this concept. Haylu chudei, vaylu chudei shari. Each min. Each species on its own is mutter, right? But only if they're joined together, it's asr. So it's something which you find elsewhere as well. So by basa b'chalav, it's not really such a big chiddush, and perhaps you can. You should be able to learn halachas from there. You should be able to learn that tam is ki'ikr from basa b'chalav. Why do we need mishras for that? Ella says the more rather, you know what the chiddush of basa b'chalav is? Something unique which you don't find elsewhere. Because even if you actually join the basa b'chalav together, you put milk and meat together, soak them all day in a pot, it's mutter, until you actually cook them together. So that's something really unique. That's a novelty. Ella, the torah kuli yayim b'chalba. Sure, if you take a piece of meat and soak it through the entire day in milk, it's mutter. Bashile b'shuli also. Once you've cooked it, with the milk it's asr. That's something of a novelty. That's something unique with basa b'chalav. You've put them together, you have the tam of the chalav and the basa. It still remains mutter, unless you actually cook it. Therefore say the Rabbanan, you can't learn anything from there. You're trying to learn that tam is like ikr? No. Basa b'chalav is this new, unique entity. You've joined the milk and meat together by cooking them, you've created a new creation, a new type of dish, a new entity. You see that tam alone doesn't do anything. It's only through cooking. That indeed is something really special and unique to basa b'chalav. You cannot learn from basa b'chalav elsewhere. You can't say, well, tam of an isser is like the isser itself, as we find by basa b'chalav. No, you can't compare other yisurim to basa b'chalav. Let's take a look at Rashi inside. So where the lines begin to widen, right above that, you'll notice 3 lines above that, Rashi begins with Umay Chidushe. So we're looking for the Chiddush of basa b'chalav. Umay Chidushe Mishar Mili. What's so special over other things? Is this the Chiddush? The Shnei Dvarim B'Tarmeh. We have 2 things which are independently mutter. Ukshenis Avar Nasar. Once they got mixed, they become asr. Mash'enke Mishar Dvarim. Something which you don't find elsewhere. HaKalayim Nami Dugmasan. Kalayim is also similar. because each min on its own is mutter, but when they're joined together, they're asr. Says the Gemara, you know what's unique about basa b'chalav? Because when you take the basa and chalav and soak it together, it remains mutter. Tarole sheireu b'chalav kol hayom shari kol hayom mutter l'shroisei b'seichai v'eino ervalav afil achilasei. You can soak it in milk, you can eat it. V'le'asr Torah al derech bishul. Not Torah. Basa b'chalav is only if it's a product of bishul, if it was cooked together. Afil you have time, even if you have some flavor, milk flavor in your meat. Not Torah, it's mutter. Of course, in Rabban it's awesome, but we're speaking in Torah here. Soaking doesn't make isser. However, bashali b'shuli awesome. Once you cook it, then it's awesome. Over al b'shuli. Number one is over for cooking, like bashal k'di b'chalevi moy, over al chilasei, and for eating it. That's truly unique to basa b'chalav. This idea is based on the fact that you created something new. It's not just a tam which was given from one item to the other. So you cannot learn from there to elsewhere. That merely a tam can make something else. You have wine-flavored water. Who said it's going to be else? That's why we need mishras to teach you tam ki'ikar by other isra. If so, says the Gemara, let's go back to Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva already used the mishras for the hetem and sarf isra. How do you know tam ki'ikar? From basa b'chalav. Says the Gemara, okay, but once we've just ruled out basa b'chalav, we've taken it off the table. It can't provide, it can't be the source of the din of tam ki'ikar because it's a chiddush. Rabbi Kiva, now a basa b'chalav vadei chiddushu. Rabbi Kiva as well, basa b'chalav is vadei chiddushu. How could you learn from there? Eliyolef Megilei Nachum. Apparently he learns from a different source. Megilei Nachum, that's the flavor which is expelled from the walls of the goyish kli. The pasuk tells us that in order for Yisrael to use the pot of a goy, you have to go ahead and put it through the process of hagala. Rashi explains, gil, hagala means to expel. So he has to go and expel the flavor embedded in the walls of the kli, which is treif, because we're concerned about the gi'ulei nacham, the flavor which is imparted, which is expelled from the walls of the kli. So Yolef Migulei Nacham. From there he's going to learn that tam is ki'ikar. Gilei Nacham, lav tam ba'amu ba'asim. What's the concern there? It's only tam, which is coming from the walls of the kli into the dish that the Israel is cooking. So we see tam is equal to the ikar. It's asr as well. Hachanami leishna. Here as well. Regarding other Yisrael, there's no difference. And tam is asr just as the ikar. That's going to be the source according to Rabbi Kiva. V'Rabbanim hold, no, you can't learn from there. Gilei Nacham nami chidushu. Here as well. It's a chiddush, a novelty. What's so special? The hakol noisen tam lefgam mutter. We know there's a general rule. If we have Isser giving over tam into a heter, the only time it will make it asr is if it's a noisen tam l'shvach. If it improves on the flavor of the recipient, it added a good flavor. But if the tam is a deficient, spoiled taste, it's a nice and tam lefgam. In that case, it will not make the other item asr. So generally we know that nice and tam lefgam is mutter. The gamrina min nevela, we learn from nevela that only something which is edible is considered asr. The Gemara learns because pasuk says soichlu kol nevela, give it to the ger. So you see something which is edible to a ger is considered nevela, which means ger teisha. But otherwise, if something is inedible, it's not considered asr. Now, as Ran points out, he says there are actually two categories. When we speak about the actual substance of isr, like nevela, it will only be mutter if it's completely, totally inedible, not roy lachila. That's because it's the actual isr. But when it comes to the tam of isr, just the flavor being given over from the isr to the heter, then we don't need it to be totally inedible. It's enough if it's not a nice and tam shvach, if it's not an ingredient which will improve the recipient, it will actually detract from the quality of the recipient. It's a nice and tam lefkam, even if it's just a spoiled taste, something inferior. Since it's not adding, it's not benefiting the machal heter. What's the concept of tam? look, the Isser is giving something to the Heter. The Heter is experiencing the positive flavor coming from the Isser. Fine, so the Isser is also considered like, the Heter is also considered like Isser. I have your good flavor, you've enhanced me. I have now risen to the level of Isser. I've attained the madrega, the Isser of the Tam that came into me, because it improved my state. It was beneficial for me to receive that Isser. But if it's not something that's going to improve, it's actually going to take away. It's going to be a chesaron in the mikabel. It's a nice tam lafgam. It's a spoiled flavor, spoiled taste, such as the flavor coming out of the walls of a kli. That's a tam pogum. It's a spoiled taste. In that case, this spoiled flavor should not, theoretically give over Isser when it goes into the dish of the Yisrael. That's a general concept. But here by Giyulei Nachrim, we find the Torah is machmer. The Torah says, be careful, don't cook in the goyish pot because of the tam that's going to come out of the walls. That tam is old, it's stale, it's spoiled. So that's the chiddush. We find that the Torah is machmer here more than elsewhere. Therefore, you can't learn from here. That tam ki'ikar. It's a chiddush, it's a novelty. Again, says the Gemara, Giyulei Nachrim nami chiddushu. The Rabbanan hold that it's a chiddush. And it's a novelty, it cannot be applied elsewhere. Elsewhere we know that something gives a tam pogum, it's mut. Here we find an exception, that even a tam pogum is us. That's why according to Rabbanan you cannot learn from here. Rather we learn from Mishras, the tam ki'ik. Very Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva respond. This was his source. So he'll hold that, no, it's not a great chiddush. Why? Because he's going to follow Rav Chia, Brei Rav Huna, who said like this: "The Omar, that you're right. When the Torah said you must expel the flavor, you must extract the Giyulei Nachrim from the substance on the wall of the kli before you use it. It was only referring to a freshly used pot. It was used today. It's Bas Yoima. Within the last 24 hours. So the flavor embedded in the wall is still fresh. Quality taste. Hilkach, lav nois in the time of Gamel. So it's not nois time of Gamel. So it conforms with the general formula. It's not a chiddush. It's a tam l'shvach, and that's why it's awesome. So that's what we can learn from here, that a tam is ki'ikar. We apply it elsewhere. V'Rabbanan. So why didn't the Rabbanan learn from here? How did they respond? Kedera b'asiyim anami, even a one-day-old kedera, it's been used today. There as well, le'efshad le'pogma purta. Can't be that there isn't a slight pagam to the flavor embedded in the wall. Rashi explains that the kli has had the tam, the substance, the essence, the cheres, whatever it is, it's going to spoil the blia contained in the wall. So even if it's freshly used, it's used today, you cannot say that the tam coming from the wall is high quality, fresh taste. It's definitely somewhat deficient. It was affected by the walls of kli. So the fact that the Torah says you have to be concerned even about this deficient taste, this tam pogam, indicates that this is a special parsha. Giyulei Nachrim is a chiddush. To be concerned even about this tam pogam. Therefore, according to Rabbanan, you cannot learn any halachas from there. Rather, you have to apply mishras to tell us tam ki'ikar. Let's make a quick chazara. We have three different types, three different categories of eating isser with heter. We have the first case, which was kazayis b'chtei pras. Straightforward halacha. That if a person has a meal, Rashi says it's a share of 4 beitzim. Pras means it's half that loaf, that 2-meal loaf. So if within this share, within the time frame that it takes to eat a meal, 3 minutes, 9 minutes, he's going to have a kazayis of isser. He's chayiv. The Gemara says, Rav Dimi told us, it's based on Allah Meshach Sinai, as Rashi explained. We have a case of a tam ki'ikar. She's not actually eating the ikar itself, the chayil of the dam, the chametz, but merely a tam which came from that ikar. Rashi says it's considered ki'ikar, and the receiver, the heter which received that tam, is considered kula yisr. So if he has a kazayis of that, For instance, the wine-flavored water. He drinks a kazayis of that water, he's chayiv. We have two ways of learning this, either according to Rabbanan because of mishras, which teaches that the bread which absorbed the wine is considered Isser Tam Ke'ikr, or according to Rabbi Kiva, that pasuk is unavailable. Rather, he learns from Gulei Akum that the flavor embedded in the wall of the kli of the guy is considered Aser. And finally, we have a greater chiddush of Heter Misafel Isser, and at this point, we apply it only to Isser Nazar, which according to Rabbi Kiva is Chayiv, and we learn this from Mishras. So this is different than Tam Ke'ikr, as Rashi explained here. As a piece of heter, which is free, totally free of the Isser or the Tam Isser. So let's say in the case of the wine dipped in the bread dipped in wine. So suppose only one side of that slice has the wine. The other side is completely free, just plain bread. There's no Tam on that side. So Tam Ke'ikr won't apply here on the portion of bread which is free of any wine, of any Tam. Rather, according to Rabbi Kiva, even in this case, we said the heter is mitzaref l'isser. Since he's eating it together, the portion of heter, that clean bread, unaffected bread, is mitzaref to the isser, and if in totality he has a kazayis, a heter and isser, he is chayiv. According to Rabbanan, since mishras is already used elsewhere to teach us tam ke'ikr, there are no pasuk available to teach us tam ke'ikr, heter mitzaref l'isser. According to Rabbanan, in this case, he's pater, unless he has a proper kazayis measure of wine. Take care, be well. Atzlacha Rabbah.